Hey family, welcome back. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and loved ones. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there, so drop in the comments. Let's get the hype going. Your support means everything. Themselves onto plane. Most are too tired to argue, too numb to complain, and too heavy-eyed to even notice the safety demonstration. The cabin dims. The crew hides in a galley, and the engines become a lullaby that rocks everyone into silence. But quiet doesn't mean safe. In fact, the quietest flights can be the worst ones. Because sometimes, it's not just the passengers drifting off. Sometimes, something else is waiting in that silence. My name is Aaron, and I've been a flight attendant for 6 years. Long enough to grow a thick skin, to stop flinching when drunks shout or when turbulence rattles a cabin like a tin can. Long enough to know how to smile even when someone is spitting curses in your face. I thought I had seen it all. Medical emergencies midair, passengers who tried to light cigarettes in the lavatory, even a man who had to be restrained with duct tape because he was clawing at the windows. But nothing prepared me for Flight 602. It was supposed to be routine. A winter red-eye from Chicago to Los Angeles, a flight I'd worked dozens of times. The kind where most of the passengers fall asleep, and the hardest part of my night is staying awake while sipping bitter galley coffee. But that night, nothing went the way it should have. The storm was already bad when I arrived at O'Hare. Snow slammed against the glass walls of the terminal in hard, blinding sheets. The kind of snow that blurred the runway lights into streaks and made the world outside look like static on a broken TV. Flights were dropping from the departure boards one after another, red canceled lines flashing. But somehow ours remained on time. That should have been the first warning. The crew met at the gate like we always did. My fellow attendant, Carla, was cheerful as ever, though her smile seemed forced, her eyes lingering on the storm. "Lucky us," she muttered. "Looks like we're the only ones crazy enough to take off tonight." I laughed, but it came out thin. Better us than the passengers stuck here overnight. But even as I said it, I felt that unease prickling the back of my neck. I pushed it away. Fatigue, I told myself. Nothing more. When boarding began, passengers trickled in slowly, hunched against the cold, dragging carry-ons through slush that had followed them inside. Most looked exhausted, half asleep already. I scanned their tickets, gave the same practice smile, and kept the line moving. My voice on autopilot. "Welcome aboard. You're in 22A, just down the aisle. Good evening." "Thank you." That's when I saw him. Row 17. Seat 17B. At first, I thought I was mistaken. He was already sitting there before boarding had even begun. That wasn't possible. We hadn't opened the doors until just minutes earlier. But there he was, tall and thin, his posture rigid. He wore a gray suit, the kind of cut that belonged in a black and white photograph, not on a modern flight. His skin looked pale, waxy, and almost translucent in the fluorescent light. I approached him, trying to keep my voice steady. "Sir, may I see your boarding pass?" He didn't answer. His lips were moving, but no sound came out. At first I thought he was whispering to himself, maybe praying, but the rhythm was too precise, too deliberate. Like he was repeating a phrase over and over. "Sir." I tried again. Slowly, he turned his head. That's when I saw his eyes. They weren't normal. Black and glossy, as though someone had poured ink inside them. No white, no pupil, just liquid black. My stomach dropped. For a split second, I forgot to breathe. The scanner at my side beeped, breaking the moment. When I glanced at the screen, it showed that 17B was already occupied. But here's the thing. Our aircraft didn't even have a row 17. The seating chart jumped from 16 to 18. I blinked hard and looked again. The row number above him read 17B. My hands trembled as I stepped back. Carla passed behind me, tugging a suitcase into the overhead bin for another passenger. "Everything good?" she asked lightly. I opened my mouth and closed it again. When I looked back, the seat was empty. No man, no gray suit, just an unbuckled belt lying neatly across the cushion. Yeah, fine." My voice shook. I forced a smile. "Fine." But inside, I wasn't fine. Not at all. The rest of boarding blurred. Passengers filed past, dragging tired children and overstuffed bags. I kept scanning tickets and kept smiling, but my eyes flicked again and again to that seat. 17B. Empty every time. Finally, the doors closed. The jet bridge pulled away with a groan, sealing us in. Engines roared to life beneath the wings, a vibration that shook the floor. The storm outside swallowed everything in white. As we pushed back, I glanced once more toward the aisle. Row 17 sat dark and empty, but I couldn't shake the image of those black, glossy eyes. I told myself I imagined it. Fatigue, nerves, maybe a trick of the light. But deep down, I already knew better, because flights aren't supposed to have a row 17. And yet, somehow, tonight we did. That was the beginning, just the first whisper of wrongness, the first slip in reality. By the time we hit cruising altitude, I was already wishing the storm had canceled us, because whatever boarded Flight 602 that night wasn't supposed to be there, and it wasn't planning on leaving. Fighting with their carry-ons, trying to get comfortable. The cabin is filled with the rustle of blankets, the hiss of air vents, and the clink of seat belts. After that, things usually quiet down, and the hush of sleep settles over everyone. But not on Flight 602. The silence felt different that night. Not the drowsy peace of a tired cabin, but something deeper. Too deep. I realized it when I was walking through the aisle, checking seatbelts, and making sure tray tables were up. Normally, even at midnight, there are sounds. Coughs, headphones leaking tinny music, and the occasional nervous laugh. But here, there was nothing, just the low hum of engines. When I reached row 17, I slowed down. The seat looked empty again. Buckle neatly folded, tray locked, nothing out of place. But my chest tightened. I couldn't forget what I had seen before boarding. The pale man, the black eyes. The call light dinged. A soft chime coming from above. My heart jumped. Row 17. I forced myself forward, hand shaking slightly as I reached for the button. The aisle was dim, with only a few overhead lights on. The seat was empty, just as before. No passenger. No one is waiting for me. But the smell hit me. Sharp metallic. Like wet iron. Like blood. I froze there for too long. Long enough for a passenger across the aisle to frown at me. "Is everything okay?" he whispered, his voice hoarse. "Everything's fine," I said quickly. Too quickly. I shut off the light and hurried back to the galley. Carla was there, sipping from her coffee cup. "You look pale. What happened?" I hesitated. If I told her, she'd think I was overtired, or worse. But before I could answer, the intercom crackled. A burst of static. Then a voice. "Ladies and gentlemen." It said smoothly, "Please remain seated." I froze. The voice was mine. My cadence, my tone, even a little lift I give at the end of sentences. But I hadn't touched the microphone. Carla hadn't either. She looked at me, her eyebrows raised. "Did you?" "No," I whispered. "I didn't." The static cut out. The intercom clicked off. We stood there, staring at each other, the galley suddenly too small, too cold. Then a scream. It came from mid-cabin. I rushed down the aisle. A man was fighting with the emergency exit, clawing at the handle, eyes wild with terror. Passengers were shouting, some trying to pull him back. "The wrong crew is flying this plane," he shrieked. His voice cracked as he struggled. "The wrong errand is flying this plane." The word struck me like ice water. My name, spoken like he knew me. Carla reached him first, wrapping her arms around his shoulders. "Sir, stop. Sit down." It took both of us, plus 2 passengers, to drag him away from the door. We buckled him into a seat, his body trembling violently. His eyes rolled white for a second, then locked onto mine. "You're not supposed to be here," he whispered. His breath stank of copper. "She's already flying." I stepped back, heart pounding. Passengers around us muttered nervously, but none of them would meet my eyes. The rest of the night blurred into fragments of fear. Children crying, pointing to the aisle, whispering about the tall man. A woman insisted that someone was breathing against her ear, though the seat beside her was empty. In the galley mirror, I saw my reflection move wrong, lagging like a bad video feed. When I smiled, her grin was too wide, stretching just a little too far. I want to call the cockpit and tell the captain something was wrong. But how do you explain something you don't understand? How do you say, I think there's someone else on this flight, and she looks exactly like me? Instead, I swallowed it down, plastered on my professional smile, and tried to keep the cabin calm. But inside, I knew the truth. Row 17 was occupied, and the man in 17 wasn't done with me yet. He should have been asleep. Passengers lulled into uneasy dreams, children dozing against their parents, the hum of engines steady and comforting. But not on Flight 602. Nobody was resting. Not really. The air felt too heavy, the silence too unnatural. Every creak of the fuselage made heads lift. Every flicker of the lights made someone whisper. And then the turbulence hit. It started as a low shudder, like a hand gripping the plane from below. Then it escalated, sudden drops that sent cups clattering from tray tables. The fasten seatbelt sign chimed. People gasped. Some cried out, clutching their armrests. Carla, and I tried to calm them. It's just turbulence. I called out, forcing my voice steady. Perfectly normal. Please remain seated. But it wasn't normal. Not this. The plane bucked like it was being shaken. My knees banged against the cart, nearly sending it rolling. The overhead bins rattled, threatening to pop open. Then the oxygen masks dropped. One by one, they fell from the ceiling like pale, dangling faces. Yellow cups swang above every seat. The hiss of air filled the cabin. Passengers fumbled with them, panic sparking into chaos. I reached for my own mask, but froze. Because every single passenger was still. Bodies upright, masks untouched, eyes rolled white like marbles. 100 faces staring at nothing. Silent. All of them, except him. Row 17. He stood in the aisle now, not seated. His frame impossibly tall. His head brushing the ceiling. His gray suit hung in tatters. Fabric shredded like it had been dragged through years of decay. His face was wrong. Skin stretched too tight. Lips moving in soundless shapes. And then I heard it. Not from his mouth, but from everywhere. The intercom, the air vents, the cabin itself. A voice. Familiar. Daniel's voice. My fiancé. The man I lost 3 years ago in a car crash. It's cold out here, my love, he whispered. My heart stopped. My vision blurred. Daniel. I choked, stepping forward without realizing. The man's head snapped toward me. His eyes, bottomless black, swallowing all light, fixed on mine. It's cold out here, bird. That was what Daniel used to call me. His nickname for me, whispered into my hair on cold winter nights. Nobody else could have known that. Nobody. I staggered backward, nearly falling. Carla grabbed my arm. Erin, what's wrong? But when I looked at her, her face flickered. For just a second, her eyes weren't hers. They were glossy black, staring into me. She blinked, and they were normal again. I pulled away. Passengers began to twitch in unison, like marionettes jerked by invisible strings. Their hands lifted, slow and synchronized, reaching for masks they hadn't touched before. But they didn't put them on. They just held them, dangling while their mouths opened as one. And they whispered, not words, not language, just a hiss. A static-filled echo, rising together into a sound that scraped against my skull. I covered my ears, but it was inside me, rattling my teeth. Then a knock. I turned to the window and saw him, the man, standing calmly on the wing, snow lashing around him, his gray suit fluttering in the wind. He shouldn't have been there. 30,000 feet in the air, nothing to stand on, but he was balanced with unnatural stillness. He tapped the glass once, twice, slowly. The sound was soft, but it vibrated through my bones. And when his lips moved, Daniel's voice filled my ears again. It's cold out here, bird. My vision swam. The cabin lights flickered red, then black, then red again. Oxygen masks swayed like nooses. Passengers' mouths gaped wider, their whispers rising into shrieks. I stumbled backward, tripping into the galley. The mirror above the counter caught my eye. My reflection wasn't me. Her grin stretched ear to ear, teeth too sharp and eyes bottomless black. She pressed her palms against the glass, as though trying to push through. Her lips moved in sync with Daniel's. Voice, "It's cold out here, my love." The plane lurched violently, slamming me into the wall. I felt the cabin tilt and heard metal groan under impossible pressure. For a moment, I thought the plane would split apart. And maybe that would have been better. The wheels slammed hard, the cabin shuddered, and a few overhead bins popped open, spilling bags into the aisle. Passengers gasped, clapped nervously, and then fell silent. I stood at the front, my hands trembling against the doorframe. The whole descent had been wrong. The air was heavy, like breathing through water. My ears rang with static. And though the masts had retracted and the turbulence had stopped, I couldn't forget what I'd seen. Row 17. The tall man. The reflection in the mirror wasn't mine. When the plane rolled to the gate and the door finally opened, passengers hurried out without meeting my eyes. No small talk, no polite goodbyes. Just silence. Feet shuffling, faces turned away. I forced my smile anyway, automatic and mechanical. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you. But with each person that passed, the dread inside me grew. Because I counted them. I always count. It's a habit, a safety measure burned into me from years of flying. And this time, the numbers didn't add up. 144. That was the number of people who walked past me. I counted each face, each step. But when I checked the manifest, it showed only 143. One extra. One passenger who didn't belong. Carla rushed off quickly, mumbling something about her commute. I lingered. My legs felt heavy, like the ground beneath me wasn't solid. The airport seemed wrong, quieter than it should have been, the fluorescent lights buzzing too loudly. At the security checkpoint, I handed over my crew badge. The officer scanned it, then frowned. "This isn't you." My heart lurched. "What do you mean?" He turned the badge toward me. The photo was mine. Same uniform, same hair pulled back into a neat bun. But the smile was wrong. Too wide, too sharp. The same smile I had seen in the galley mirror. "That's not me," I whispered. The officer raised an eyebrow. "Then who is it?" I snatched the badge back before he could say more. My hand shook as I shoved it into my pocket and hurried toward the exit. For days after, I tried to convince myself I had imagined it. Stress, exhaustion, maybe a waking dream. But the evidence lingered. Mirrors caught me smiling when I wasn't. Passengers' eyes flicked past me as though looking at someone just behind. And at night, when I closed my eyes, I heard him. "Daniel, it's cold out here, bird." The words echoed from the static of my TV, from the hiss of my shower, and from the hum of my refrigerator. I stopped working red ice. I avoided flights over the Midwest. But none of it mattered, because she was still there. The other me. I see her sometimes, reflected in dark windows or polished metal, standing just behind me, waiting, patient, hungry. And I wonder, when she finally steps out of glass, when she takes my place completely, will anyone notice the difference? Or will they smile back at her, thinking she's me while I'm left outside in the cold?